Hi everybody, I'm Norsan Abdel,
And I'm Gray Long.
and we're here to talk to you about
Decolonization.
more specifically in Africa.
Around the world at this time, the World War I and World War II had just ceased, and the American Civil War was occurring between the North and the South. The French Revolution was also going on. Decolonization in South Asia and Latin America were also occurring.
It is against this backdrop that decolonization in Africa was happening. Due to the desire to put an end to oppression of the African race and resentment of Europeans, the people and countries involved in nationalistic independence movements in Africa changed the existing world order. And to put an end to oppression of the African race and resentment of Europeans, the people and countries involved in nationalistic independence movements in Africa changed the existing world order, challenging colonialism and fighting for independence by negotiation in countries such as Ghana and war in countries such as Algeria. After World War II, Britain began to pull their hands out of the countries that they imperialized. Ghana, in particular, argued for their independence. Great Britain agreed to negotiate independence for its West African colony of the Gold Coast. This was going to be known as Ghana, and it was the first sub-Saharan country to gain independence, which they gained in 1957. The first president of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah, took office in 1960. Some of his accomplishments were public works and development projects such as hydroelectric plants. However, he was also accused of running the country into debt and allowing the widespread corruption. This would later become an economic pattern seen in subsequent African dictatorships. Nkrumah became a dictator, and in 1964, he claimed dictatorial powers when the voters agreed to a one-party state. Nkrumah was, of course, the party leader. He was also a proud leader of Pan-Africanism, which actually had two different implications for some 2 centuries. American and British abolitionists who opposed slavery in the 19th century decided to return former slaves back to Africa, calling it Pan-Africanism or Africa for Africans. However, in the second half of the 20th century, the term Pan-Africanism came to a meaning of a celebration of unity of culture and ideas throughout the continent. One of Africa's political objectives was to form an organization of African states that would be alike the European Union. In fact, by 2002, the OAU was replaced by the African Union, AU. Their membership was 53 African nations. The leaders shared hopes for closer cooperation. However, they disagreed on where or whether the organization should intervene in the affairs of member states.
Unlike the more civil independence in Ghana, Algeria actually fought the Algerian War for Independence, which began in 1954. Many Algerians have been campaigning for independence since the end of World War II. The war in Algeria was more complicated than the others, since other groups, such as France, were involved. Since Algeria had such a high population of French people, the Algerian government saw Algeria as part of their country and was against Algeria becoming a separate country. But the French did not get what they wanted. The National Liberation Front was the leader of the Algerian movement for independence. They used guerrilla warfare, a technique where a small group battled a large traditional military using tactics such as sabotage and raids to fight off the 500,000 French soldiers. Although they fought hard, hundreds of Algerian soldiers died fighting the French. In 1962, war broke out again in Algeria, and result 50,000 to 15,000 were dead at the hands of the National Liberation Front's armies and lynch mobs. Consequently, the first president of the new Algerian Republic was overthrown in 1965 in a military coup led by his former ally. They continued in power under different leadership. They maintained a socialist, authoritarian government that cracked down on dissent. The government led a drive for modernization of industry, collectivization of agriculture. In 1991, an Algerian civil war resurfaced in reaction to the one-party rule. The government led a drive for modernization of industry, collectivization of agriculture. In 1991, an Algerian civil war resurfaced in reaction to the one-party rule. The Islamic Salvation Front won the first round in an election that was canceled. The war lasted from 1991 to 2002. The FLN continued in control. The president of Algeria, Abdelaziz Bouteflika, was chosen by the army in 1999. During his second term, he attempted to be more inclusive of insurgents, although suicide bombings continued. In 2011, the military state of emergency in place since 1992 was lifted in response to protests in the wake of major uprisings in nearby states, including Tanzania, Egypt, and Libya.
Due to all the issues that Africa endured post-decolonization, they still have modern-day problems such as poverty, poor education, ill health, violence, hunger, access to finances, and a low economic growth rate.
Hey Norsan, guess what time it is?
What time is it?
It's time for the open letter. An open letter to Britain. Dear Britain, you suck. You cannot just try to take over these countries, abuse their resources, and steal their land. You don't run the world. That's Beyonce's job. Not to mention, taking their natives as slave, kind of a jerk move. Britain, anyways, thanks for nothing. Man. Sincerely, Africa, and well, pretty much everyone else.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Smash that like button. I hope you learned something
Smash
today.
that like button.
Bye.
Peace out.